Welcome aboard. Stephen Bowcutt is my guest. He is the sales manager at Casa Linda, and yesterday we went out to see his organic farm, which was so cool. So, Stephen, I appreciate the time. We'll get into all of it today, but if you could just unmute your mic and take as much time as you need to tell everyone about who you are and how you got to this place in your life, and specifically the Dominican Republic. All the links are in the show description below. We got the Facebook page here and a couple Casa Linda links. And Stephen, I really appreciate your time. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. Love this place. Happy to be here, and appreciate the invite to the show. It was great to have you guys and the group from Viva on the farm yesterday. So that was kind of cool. I love showing what we're doing and serious advancements. But yeah. My name is Stephen Bowcutt, as Jim said. I'm the sales manager at Casa Linda and the owner of Finca Sol. That seed of life is the what the abbreviation stands for. And we're an organic permaculture farm with building a syntropic food forest. I'm an American, a former military man from the United States, former entrepreneur, or really still an entrepreneur. And I've been married 38 years to my Dominican American wife. And when we sold our last business in the United States, we decided to skip out on the matrix. And that was 18 years ago. We raised 2 kids here. At that time, I felt the only choice was the international school, but now there's lots of options for education and raising children here. And this may be the very best place on the planet to raise children. We ended up with some pretty great kids, and I'm pretty proud of that. And all that good stuff, I blame on their lovely mother, my wife. Maybe I had a little bit to do with it, but she's the main force behind all the good stuff there.
Some people might be surprised to hear that this is such a great place to bring children up in the school system. Can you dig into that a little bit more in your experience of it?
Well, the international school is like any international school, a great program, great education, smaller classrooms, highly educated teachers, great place. Now there's Isla Academy, there's a new French school in Cabarete, there's Garden Kids, there's also, I've heard of, I haven't seen, a handful of small classrooms that teach all grades, and it's an online international baccalaureate program. Now, our kids were both athletes and traveling quite a bit, so, excuse me. So they ended up graduating from international online schools, one called Forest Trail Academy, not really giving them a plug other than it was absolutely wonderful for us and what our kids got out of it. I'm going to mute this just 1 second and make a quick cough. Okay, I'm back. I'm not sure where that came from. But anyway, there's a lot of opportunities. The fastest growing educational system on the planet is online education. And I'm a big believer in it. Our youngest got into high-end university in the United States. Our oldest got into a high-end university and design school here in this country. Both are adults and doing great on their own. So education here is not a concern. There's lots of options and opportunities. Socialization is not a concern either, because there's so many sports here, from every water sport you could imagine. Guys, Jim, not sure what's going on. And I neglected to grab a bottle of water when I walked in here. So kids get their socialization out on the beach, or kiting, or mountain biking, or hiking, or soccer. There's a huge soccer community here in this small area of Cabarete, Sosua. I'm going to say 4 fields in the area, which is, for a small community, great. You know, Cabarete is said to be the kite surfing capital of the world. I'm not sure if it's the capital, but surely a great place to kite, and the reason that we moved here initially. So, well, back to education. When we started school here, our youngest had 21 children in her classroom, 21 countries represented, and the older child wasn't much different. She was in a slightly smaller class and had slightly fewer countries represented, but I think that kind of diversity is incredible for your children. Wow. They have friends from all over the world, and still do. One of the kids still lives here. The other one's a recent graduate from a major university in California and is working a bit now, but headed towards her master's in the near future. So I don't think there's any concern. I don't think the American or Canadian public school systems are anything to be concerned about as far as leaving that behind. Yes, education can cost here, or does cost here, but was worth every penny that we paid.
Yeah.
Well-rounded children, great kids.
Yeah, I'll certainly agree with you on the North American systems. I think once you immerse children in world religions and cultures, like when they're young, they have a better understanding of it when they're growing up. And for those of us that grew up in white neighborhoods, I've never experienced culture shock like coming to the DR, and it wasn't a Dominican culture shock. It was meeting all the Russians and Jews and Haitians and all, like the Dominican people are obviously a different culture. And, I've been here before, so I kind of understand it, but I've never met a Russian before. And I know so many of them, and they're just awesome people. Some of them, my best friends. So I love the idea of immersing in multiculturalism and understanding world religions and stuff like that. And the best way to do it is to have a friend that's into that kind of stuff. I never had that as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And believe you nailed it. As an American, we have this, these people are like that, or those people are like this. Nah, there's obviously anywhere in the world you go, people you want to hang out with and people you don't. But those are the choices we make as we move along through life. And we as well have friends from all over the world. And I love it. I love learning things about different cultures and experiencing how somebody else might do something that we may also do, but they move through it a little differently. And I think that's pretty cool.
You've been here a long time, Stephen. Give me your take on the political climate, especially when it relates to the North Coast where we are, Sosua Cabarete, and what you've seen over the years that you've been here as far as different governments and different spending with infrastructure and attention to detail in different areas and demographics. What have you seen that you can comment on?
Well, you're asking me to delve into
trouble.
I'm sorry.
No,
what was that?
Well, I don't want you to get political, but I do appreciate your observations on the local climate.
Well, again, you're asking me to delve into a field that I try to avoid at all costs. However, that being said, politics here are pretty mild. If you're Dominican, you're going to feel them a lot more than if you're a foreigner, unless you're watching the local stations and listening to the local radio stations. There is a presidential election coming up. I've never experienced anything incredibly negative here from the government. Like anywhere you go, the different parties have their different views, but overall, this place is pretty well taken care of. The only place in the world that I'm aware of that offers, I'll call it AAA roadside service, free. It's included by the government. And it's the same thing that we pay hundreds of dollars a year for towing. I say towing. They'll help you change a tire if you run out of fuel. They'll help you with that. If your car's broke down, they'll wait for a tow truck with you. It's just an incredible service, something that's almost mind-boggling that they offer in a developing country, whereas the States, it costs big money for that. We recently had a car towed that broke down in the countryside, and tow truck was there in a matter of very short period of time, way better service than in the US, delivered it to exactly where we asked them to deliver it to, did exactly what they said they would do, and the insurance picked it up. So there was no money exchanged. It was a wonderful experience, but politics, that's a tough one. There are a lot of politicians. There are some, as previously mentioned, some elections coming up. I try to stay out of that area as long as it doesn't directly affect me. And I know I'll probably get some backlash for that, but my wife and daughter vote here. And because of my type of residency, I don't vote. I guess in a couple of years, I'll get that right back. I had let my residency expire. Something was going on in my life, and I put it first and forgot about the residency expiring. And then when I realized it, I had to pay a lawyer to bring everything back to life, but it was very economical, and she was wonderful, and everything just worked out great. But as far as what we see living here, the roads are in pretty darn good shape, as good as anywhere you could live in the U.S., I'd say, and better than many cities in the U.S. The medicine is good. The services are good for those that use governmental services. I guess you could always pick things apart, but I think overall the political climate here is quite good, and the president is intelligent and well-spoken.
And from the North Coast.
And the North Coast in general is, well, besides being just an absolutely breathtaking place to live with lots of activities, I mean, I think you'd agree our roads are good, our services are pretty good. Overall, there's very little difference here from the services and the road quality than living in the United States. Now, that being said, I think this area is growing pretty rapidly, and maybe some of the infrastructure is not quite up to speed, but I know there's plans to change water systems and the sewage systems and things like this. But I'm on a farm, so I don't have to deal with much of that. I have my own well and my own management systems for gray water and sewage.
Yeah. Well, I think the evidence in a successful government or successful social systems is what you see in the street. And, in Canada and the U.S., we're seeing tent cities, and there's a new drug out there that's making people walk around like zombies. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they're just mindless. And we're seeing this rampant, and there's none of that. Like, I'm in small town Sosua, it's not the big centers, and I don't travel around all that much, but I get the feeling that you just don't see the drug addiction and homelessness here. They seem to make do with a lot less than we normally know in North America, and just hopeful and happy. And man, what a beautiful thing to see unexpectedly coming to this country. I was here 30 years ago. I fell in love with the culture and the food and the people, and the more I'm here, I'm like, wow, we just don't have a fentanyl problem is number one. Painkillers are tightly regulated here. And I don't know if it's their Catholic way of life or what have you, but it just seems like people are not as hopeless. Like, they're really loving and tolerant of each other, and the gringos, the expats that come in from out of town. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. I'm sure there are those elements here, but we don't see them. I'm sure that you, just like anywhere in the world, you can get just about anything you want or feel like you need, but I don't see it. I don't feel it. As you stated, I don't see homeless here. There's no tents. Occasionally you'll run into somebody that looks like they're homeless, but surely somebody's helping them or feeding them, etc. But just not like, I was recently in Portland, Oregon, and then Pebble Beach, California, just a couple of weeks ago, and tents and homeless and all kinds of things going on there. And it really even made me appreciate where I live and where I've chosen to spend my life. I love it here. It's a beautiful place. I'm not sure where you want to head next, but let's decide.
Well, I think we should talk about Casa Linda first, obviously. A huge growing community, one that is high on my list for ROI and return. And you guys have been around for a long time, build many houses. And so if we could touch on that a little bit, and then I'd like to talk about your farm. But business first. Let's dive into Casa Linda. What's up over there?
I appreciate that. Appreciate you bringing us on for those reasons. Well, Casa Linda is a North American style community. So far today, I'm going to say we've delivered 450 villas. We've got 85 villas under construction, plus 71 condos under construction. We've got all kinds of amenities, including a water park and a tennis court and mini golf. We have a beach club. We're off the beach, so we can keep our prices down. However, we have a shuttle bus that takes people to our beach club in the heart of the beach of Cabarete or Sosua, restaurants, bars, restaurants, etc. 7 days a week. That's included in your monthly fees. Beautiful place, tight rules. We have a lot of rental villas that are managed by exterior hosts. We call them super hosts. And they do marketing. We have a 28-year history, so we're also marketing the product for sale and rent. These are not North American stick homes. These are monolithic structures, one piece concrete block and steel. So very little issue at all or of any kind with wind and that being said, Cabarete and Sosua are protected by the highest peak in the Caribbean. Hurricanes don't hit us here. They come close, but they're tropical storms when they hit us here. And that's a great thing about being behind Pico Duarte and its height. So lovely place, a great place to live, a lot high ROIs if you're buying it as an investment. We have well over 70% annual occupancy rates, and there are several super hosts of our largest hosts that are boasting over 80% annual occupancy rates. And what that means to you as a homeowner is a great income once the villa is purchased, delivered, furnished, etc. So, and then we have a separate project that's called Connections. You find that at connections-dr.com. And that is a condominium development near Encuentro Beach, which is the best surf beach on the island, debatably, but one of the best for sure. And that's going up now. We'll start delivering those probably in March or thereabout. And then each 6 weeks or so, we'll deliver another tower. So lots of opportunity here. Most of our buyers are cash buyers, bringing their refinance or fluid cash, not bringing it physically, but sending it through wire transfers to make purchases. However, we also work with Scotiabank, and they offer financing for up to 65% of whatever villa you choose, based on your North American credit, to your debt to income ratio, just like in the States. You get a title outright for whatever you buy here and have the same rights as a Dominican owner. So there's really no different. And it's not like many Caribbean islands or Latin American countries that you don't really own it. Here you really own it with a title and what's called a dislinde, which is a title guarantee. You get a lot of choices when you're building a villa here as far as your internal finished product between tiles, even the glass color and window frames, lots of tile choices, paint finishes, cabinets, doors. Pretty much all the finishes are an option or a choice within our standard. Yes, you can upgrade, but I personally don't think you need to. We have super high quality finishes and produce a nice product.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the logistics, what you're looking at for down payment, what phase you're in, delivery dates, entry-level prices, and the specifics of the builds?
Sure, we're going to start at $229,000 with a villa, $229,900 for a condo, 7-month build time, and it usually takes, after you've separated a lot, which is a $25,000 deposit, which is later deducted from your purchase. So it doesn't just disappear like some builders. Once you've done that, then you work yourself through with our design department, choosing all your finishes. In the meantime, your lawyer is preparing your contract of sale, and then it's a minimum of 35% down, which is fairly standard throughout the Caribbean and especially in the Dominican Republic. I'm always cautious of owners that offer owner financing, especially if they don't have a large project and have a bunch of finished project or product, if you will. So financing is relatively easily attainable, and I can send you documentation on that if anyone's interested. In fact, if you're interested, contact Jim or myself and just mention the show so that we know where it came from, and Jim and I can track what this type of talk show produces for us. So what else did you have there, Jim?
I think we got the entry level. Is it 20,000 to hold a lot? And what phase
25.
are you in now?
Yeah, 25,000 to separate a lot to pull it off the market, then 35% minus that deposit of 25,000 to start construction, 7-month build time. Now condos are a little bit different. That's 10,000 to pull it off the market, and then there's payment structure based on when the delivery date is, and it spreads it out over the build time. But because we're so deep into that project and how far along the construction is, we have to shorten up some of those payment plans to make sure that it's paid for before we deliver it.
Okay. And what phase are you delivering now for the villas?
Well, right now we're delivering 8, 9, which is just finishing up a handful of lots in here. 10 and 11 are predominantly sold out. There's a couple of large lots available in there.
Okay.
And then phase 12, which has quite a few lots and even some premium lots that with a guaranteed second floor ocean view. So you do have to build a 2-floor on those, but a really nice second floor ocean view. And that's phase 12. And once these are sold, we'll move into 13, and who knows where the end will be. We're all still anxious to continue to do what we do, which is develop properties and build beautiful villas and condos.
Awesome. Okay, so there is still some significant, even premium lots in 12. I thought that would sell out quicker, but when you look at a waiting list of 80 people and then 35 or 40 of them buy, and then, as the project moves ahead, it seems like you create some vacancies here and there, because I thought that thing would have been sold out long time ago.
Things come and go, and some people have dreams maybe a little bit bigger than they can realize at that time, and so they'll separate a lot and then maybe can't get the financing or get the payments that they thought they could get, or maybe are not in the position that they thought they were. And the economy is changing a little bit, but a lot of people are moving here from all over, North Americans from everywhere, Europeans. It's a beautiful thing, and many of us are living a wonderful life here and really loving it. And I wanted to bring this up. This is something I missed earlier. I was in Oregon and California. If you look around, a lot of frowns on faces. You look around here in Cabarete or Sosua, and everybody's got a smile. And that's just something I love. You just don't see that same level of unhappiness that you do. I used to say back home, but I don't say that anymore because I'm home here.
Yeah, I try to watch saying back home too, because this is definitely my home now. And, I find it mostly on the men. The Dominican men have a smile that lights up the whole street, and they smile at you for absolutely no reason. Sometimes I think they're laughing at me, and then I'm like, what is this guy on some powerful SSRI that just makes him happy? This Zoloft guy? And they just don't have medications like that down here, or overprescribed like we do back home. And then, I swear I see guys standing on the side of the road with their arms around each other, just busting each other's chops. And if you ask them, hey, are you guys good friends? Most of the time the answer is no, we just met, we're just hanging out. We're just, a couple moto guys hanging on the corner here, and we're just busting balls. And, I love that. I forgot how much love there is, when I was come from North America, and down here it's all different. And in Cabarete specifically, they all get that stupid grin on their face, and I'm talking about most of the expats and travelers, because they're doing what they love. It's like you getting the golf clubs out of the car. You got to, even if it's not a grin, you're like, I'm on my way to my happy place, or I'm just coming back from my happy place. And what's there to be looking at your feet and kicking your teddy bear down the beach? There's no reason for that kind of nonsense.
Absolutely. And you say golf clubs, I say kiteboard, and kites and whatnot.
Yeah.
We each have our own activities that we enjoy. Yeah, people are happy here, and that's something truly special. And I was at an event a couple of nights ago, and this lady was talking about the Taino Indians, which were the ones that Columbus supposedly discovered. I don't know how you discover something that's already there, but that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
And she said that this Puerto Plata, Sosua, Cabarete, Hamao create a triangle. And at one time in the Taino days, that this was the center of the world, this area. And there's a lot of, I don't know if it's magnetic or magical things that go on here. And it was pretty interesting, her conversation. I'm I'm a spiritual guy, but the way she was speaking historically was pretty interesting, and I found it very interesting and intriguing that's why this may be such a happy place, or one of the many reasons.
That's a perfect segue into our next conversation. I want to touch on your farm and your vision out there. But after we were sitting in your living room yesterday, for lack of a better term, and I'll post some pictures when we repost this live show. Can you speak to your recent experiences? You talked about a sound experience and then a breathing exercise. Can you talk about that any? Because I was fascinated by it. And that living room is sonically perfect, man. You should run little classes out there. I just love when you walk into a place and you're like, hey, where's all the sound going? It feels like it's being sucked out of my ears. Such a really cool sonic space that you have there.
Well, that space is actually considered a gazebo, but it's got a heat chimney on the top. It's got a canna roof, and it's got a big mandala painted on the floor. Just my wife's decorative skills, and I like it. It's a cool spot, like you said. The sound journeys. There's a young lady, local lady in Cabarete, and I've always had a little trouble kind of winding down and relaxing. And my wife befriended this young lady years ago, probably 15 years ago, when we were just a couple of years here. And if you'd have told me then that we'd be doing sound journeys and breathing classes with her, I would have never, or with anybody for that matter, I would have never believed it. But these sound journeys she creates incredible music at relatively specific notes or keys, and it's one of the most relaxing things I've ever done. And Estrellita is her name online, and she's pretty easy to find, and I highly recommend her for those with good vibes that want better vibes in their life. And then the other night I mistakenly signed up for a breathing class when I thought I was going to a sound journey, and it was an incredible experience, and I'm hooked now. A lot of deep breathing, a lot of good music, and some guidance from this lovely young lady, Sabrina, or Estrellita. And by the end of the class, I felt like I was floating. It was an incredible feeling, and I still have that today. I feel lighter and more limber, and it's just, nothing involved but certain types of breathing that you're guided through, and certain music that she produces. And I'll digress a little bit. We did a breathing class in a Taino cave recently, and this cave was filthy when she found it. She cleaned it up, made it hospitable, and then held this class down in this cave, which had a nice flat spot for, I think there was 8 or 10 people thereabout, to lay down on a mat and then jump in this cold water down in this cave. There's a kind of a lake or a river within the cave, and it was a fabulous experience. And it's not something that I would have ever dreamed about previously, but now I love it. It's something that I do, and it's some of the most relaxing times of my month or week, depending upon how often I can get away to do the classes. But there's a lot of natural medicine and spiritual, maybe spiritual is the wrong word, but lots of natural and holistic is probably a better word, medicines here, and natural treatments as opposed to pharmaceuticals. And there's just something special about that. You go to a doctor in North America, and the first thing they want to do is write you a script. Oh, but come back and see me so I can charge you again. I don't believe it's about doing no harm anymore. I believe it's about keeping you going and keeping you coming back. And now we use medical doctors here when we need to. And, that kind of brings up, there's right here next to Casa Linda there, and not far from my farm, there's a hospital called CMC. They have a high-level trauma center, emergency room. My wife we've all had some treatments there over the years. We've been here a long time, and the service is great. And I'm going to say, real close to North American quality, and I think, if not better, for that matter. And, I personally know the owner and his wife, and they're great people. Neurosurgeon, I believe he's originally from Argentina. and it's first class. So that's not something you have to worry about. And while we're on that, let me just add that health insurance is dirt cheap here, and the service is great. So
Yeah, they talk about inflation all over the world, and in my country, the wait for something like an MRI is 8 months or longer, and then if you miss it, you have to get back in line. It actually took me longer I had 2 MRIs done on my lower back, and they were 20 minutes each. The last one was really tough because I had to hold my arms above my head inside the chamber, and it was really uncomfortable for way too long. But it actually took longer to do the MRI than it took to book it. Like my last X-ray, I called her and I said, can you get me in today? She said, can you be here before 11 a.m.? So I had to go to Puerto Plata for a dynamic X-ray because they couldn't do it here in Sosua. But it actually took me longer to have the MRI than it took me to book it. Like literally the same afternoon if I wanted it. So, and then, my bike broke down the other day. I'm at the light. It's a new bike, and it stalled out, wouldn't restart, and I could smell gas. I pulled it around behind the Sosua sign. That's where I broke down, and it was leaking all out on the ground. I pushed it up to my mechanic just around the corner, and he had it a couple hours, cleaned the carburetor, and charged me 1,800 pesos, like $36. At home, if I bring my brand new bike into a bike shop with a problem, it's $350. Like, so they talk about inflation, but there's so much here. Clayton yesterday, we're out showing properties. I looked down at he's got an F-150 Super Duty or something like that. Like a big, you saw it. It's a nice big truck. And I looked down at the back wheel, and it looks like it had been off the rim, like it had a repair. I said, did you get a flat? He said, yeah. It cost me 100 pesos to fix that. 100 pesos, I said. And Marina was with us. She says, and I paid 1,000 pesos, but the guy came to my house and fixed it right on the spot. So she said, I'm glad to pay 16 or 17 American dollars for someone to come to my house. And I'm thinking, wow, they talk about inflation. Yeah, we've seen the food prices climb a little bit, even things like water. So some of the things are going up, but a lot of the local food production here isn't like the prices back home. And I think it makes up for it. If you ever have a problem, you need your car fixed or something like that, you're just not, anything that a Dominican can do labor-wise is a fifth the price it is in Canada. Or
agreed.
less.
Yeah, service is good, and people are all friendly. It's rare that you're going to run into somebody that's rude or obnoxious, but that's fairly common back home. And
they're always expats when that happens.
Back in North America, right? Right.
Anyways, talk to us a little bit about the farm. It was such a great tour. I appreciate, and I kind of pushed my way in there. I figured, well, now we've got the show. We can't really speak to it intelligently unless I've been there. So I kind of pushed my way through the door because I've been wanting to come out there for months. So thanks for taking the time to show us all around. It was a really cool tour. Tell us about how you got started there and where you're at now and what your future plans might be.
Well, years ago, I ran into a guy that was a permaculturist working in Cabarete, and I watched what he was doing and listened to him. And then, most importantly, tasted the vegetables that he was growing, and they just had a better flavor and just were sweeter and nicer. And I said to my wife, I want to learn more about that permaculture thing, and then got a certificate in there. And then once our kids were grown up and off at universities, our house was too big, and we just wanted to change. So we bought a little 10-acre farm in a great location, close in, drilled a well, put a container home on it, and built a garage and a little apartment for visitors. And now we're building a little A-frame. It's almost finished we're not sure if it's going to be a guest house or an Airbnb or where we're at with all that, but it was something cool, and we needed another bedroom. And of course, built that gazebo. So that's kind of our living room, if you will. And there's a big terrace on the container home. And we started planting fruit trees. Because the permaculture thing, I started putting seeds in pots and then grafting and doing a little of this and a little of that. And by the time we bought the farm, I had, I'm going to say, close to 1,000 fruit trees and maybe 60 or 70 varieties. We're now at 143 varieties of fruit and over 4,000 fruit trees. We have a rare fruit nursery. We're planting them pretty close together and trying to mimic a jungle. A food forest is really where we're headed with parts of it. And then centropic food forest, which is all of our own fertilizers and things we produce on the property. Or I shouldn't say all. We recently got about 70 loads of yard waste from several of the housing developments around. We put about a foot of organic material over maybe 3 acres, maybe a little bit more than that. And it's slowly breaking down and it's ugly, but I know in time it'll be beautiful because we'll have higher quality soils and more fertility. We have a couple of ponds that we built on the property. After a couple of days of heavy rain, the water runs across one specific area of the property. So we dug a big pond there and we're just about ready to put a liner in it. And then that one will have a liner, and when it overflows, it crosses a really zigzag river. We call it a lazy river, and flows through 2 more ponds. So that water has an opportunity to sink in on our property as opposed to take high quality soil that we've developed to the neighbors as the water flows. So that's kind of cool. We've got a couple of 1,000 feet of raised beds for vegetables. We've got a worm farm for worm castings and worm tea. Those are wonderful items to use as fertilizers and starters. Actually threw a couple of sticks in a bucket of worm tea the other day, and within just days they had roots coming out of them. And I was really surprised and pleased at how that worked. And we've got lots of mulberries and avocados and fruits you've never heard of or seen probably, and then fruits that are all over the Dominican Republic as well. And the retirement plan is to have a farm store. My wife produces kombucha and some other stuff. We have friends that produce ghee and all kinds of other high quality food elements or elements of food. And so we're pretty excited about that. I have a hard time sitting still, so the farm is to keep me out of my wife's hair, I think. And also we'd like to, as we grow old, eat high quality food, know exactly where it comes from and what's in it. Because you go to a grocery store and you just have no idea what you're consuming.
And what the heck is a strawberry tree? Is that literally a tree that bears strawberries?
They look just like regular strawberries. They're very similar. And I've got a handful of those. I've got grape trees. That's called jaboticaba in Brazil, and they come from the rainforests of Brazil. We've got quite a few different varieties of nuts and fruits and berries. I love eating berries, and I love blackberries. But blackberries are now, you're able to grow them there. I have a friend called the Plant Man on Instagram, and Benyam, great guy. And he's got a farm, and he's got spineless blackberries, or thornless blackberries, pardon me. And he says they're growing quite well. So I can't wait to get over to his farm, which is very near mine, to take a look at the blackberries he's growing. But we must have, I don't know, a couple hundred mulberry trees, and they're producing now. My wife went out and picked a big bowl full this morning, and they're just incredible.
Wow.
Really nice flavor.
Awesome, brother. Well, I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy at Casa Linda, and my dad lives on a hobby farm out in Port Robinson in the middle of Niagara. And even though it's not a production farm, that was one thing I loved about living out there as a kid. Every time you walked out the back door, there was always something to do. There's always something to care for. There's always something to maintain or what have you. And just looking at your ground cover and your weed suppression strategy and the selective clearing of certain areas at certain times, and then your struggle with water. And there's just such a fascination for me for even looking at, your farm's 10 acres or something like that. Even a 10-acre farm is a big job to manage.
Well, luckily we've only started with a small section of it. And there's parts of it we have barely touched. But little by little, over the next few years, we're going to get it all together, and we'll have a solid 6 acres of variety of production in the next couple of years. And we're super excited to see what the future brings. And we love it when people come and visit and check out what we do and how we do it. And we're learning from everybody, and we hope people are learning a little bit from us as well. I think growing your own food is a pretty special thing, and nothing tastes better than something you've produced.
I amen to that. Well, let us know when the Airbnb light goes on, the vacancy light goes on. I'd be interested in sending some business your way for that. And I'm in Casa Linda tonight at 4:30, so I think that gives me an excuse to pass by Castaways and have my favorite linguine shrimp and salmon dish that they do there. It's I haven't had that for months, but I was having it every couple weeks when I first got down here. But great dish, so I appreciate your time. I know an hour of it is valuable, and I appreciate you setting some aside for us. So just on the way out, any contact information you want to leave for the viewers?
Well, I'm Stephen Bowcutt. Probably the best is WhatsApp, 809-545-6444. And once again, I just ask that you tell me where this came from, so that Jim and I can kind of keep track of points of the game, I guess. Or Stephen at buyincasalinda.com. That's Stephen with a V, but contact Jim directly as well. And we look forward to showing you what we do here. And if you want a vacation home or you want to relocate. One last thing, Jim, if I might, I'm confident in March we'll be doing a relocation and investment seminar here in Sosua. I've been putting that together. We have this show in Santiago this week. As soon as I get back, I'll jump into this new seminar, like feet first. And so those of you that want to invest here, come down, check it out, learn from local investors, lawyers. We actually have a CPA, an American CPA that'll be here, whom I've been to other seminars with. We'll have a couple of lawyers talking. We'll have realtors and, of course, Casa Linda, and a variety of people that can really spell out how life is here. And I'm pretty excited you're the first one to hear that, so you heard it here first. And it's something that I'm pretty excited about, and I think it'll help a lot of people to make a decision to pull the trigger to move.
Yeah, I'm really interested in promoting that for you when you set up a date on the North Coast. So, yeah, that sounds like something that's right up your alley. You know what I mean? You're so good with the microphone and public presentations and even one-on-one. I mean, there's nobody that knows your product like you do. And so what better person to have teach it, you know what I mean? And people really appreciate the knowledge, you know what I mean? They want to talk to somebody that knows, that's been there, that's learned the hard lessons. And I talked to Mario Dragos the other day. He's a real entertainer. And I said to him, it seems like the lessons I learned down here are all hard ones. Sometimes expensive ones. You don't learn soft lessons on the island here, it seems. So speaking to the people that have shared that experience and the hard lessons is always valuable. So people will appreciate it.
And I think we can eliminate some of those hard lessons for people by pointing them in the right direction for good lawyers, good legal response if you're buying a villa or a farm or land or whatever, a business, to make sure you're getting the right guidance, a CPA, so that you know what your rights are and what your obligations are to the U.S. and to the DR. So I think all that's good. And we're going to bring that together and put it all in one spot and educate some people that are considering moving down this way. So
awesome. All right.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll touch you up when you set a date for that seminar. That'd be great.
Appreciate the kind words. Have a great day, sir.
You too. Cheers.
All right. Bye.
Well, that's how you do that. Stephen Bowcutt is the sales manager of Casa Linda. He's been there a long time. So has Casa Linda been there a long time. And operating an organic farm up the hill and the hillside of El Choco. What an abundance of knowledge, and I really appreciate the time. So I hope I wasn't cutting into your lunch hour too much there, Stephen, but he's always very generous and knowledgeable, and I love having people like that on the show. So touch him up. If you need to get a hold of him, I can put you in contact with him, or if you didn't catch the number right here. But yeah, appreciate you checking it out. Peace, love, hug your neighbor. And I am out.